This is a podcast about one woman's mission to help entrepreneurs and business owners write better business books. Each week, we tackle your writing excuses, because there are excuses too, and help you beat the blank page of doom so that you can write the book that'll grow your life and your business. Now here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello. Welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. My name is Vicky Fraser, and this is my husband, Joe.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are drinking...
Misery tea.
We are drinking ginger and lemon tea, and I'm drinking out of my Mark Dawson self-publishing formula mug.
And I'm drinking...
Which I was interviewed on not so long ago, and it was really cool. That's more important than what you're drinking out of, but now you may talk about it. Sorry. Sorry.
I am drinking misery tea out of a mug from Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights.
Which is the best bookshop in the entire world,
In
because
Bath.
that's where I had my reading spa, and it was the most amazing day.
Hello, Mr. B.
Hi, Mr. B's. We are talking today. Well, today's title is A Crash Course in Editing, and that is exactly what you're going to get, because nobody wants to edit their own book, but not everybody can afford a professional editor. So I'm going to give you my top tips as a book coach and editor and book writer about how to edit your book without wanting to cry too much.
We also will most likely at some point during this episode have a guest appearance from Whiskey, who is...
Pesky.
She has definitely got the pesk this afternoon. She is in the office, pesking about the place.
She's running and jumping and sliding around on the mats, which is quite entertaining.
So,
yeah. So what are you reading at the moment, Joe?
So I have just finished reading The Bus Driver Who Wanted to Be God and Other Stories. Other short stories?
Stories.
Other stories. Short stories. That was by a chap whose name I can't remember.
We mentioned it last week.
We did?
Can you not remember it?
No. And I've just finished it, and I like the short stories. Half the book was kind of one slightly longer story in multiple chapters.
Oh, was it?
Yes, which...
Edgar Carrot.
Edgar Carrot, there you go. Which I enjoyed, but I kind of didn't really get it. I kind of felt, it made me feel like I was missing the point of the story a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm going to read it soon, so I will report back and let you know what I think.
Cool, what are you reading?
What are you reading now, though?
Oh, well, I'm moving on to Don't Touch My Hair.
By Emma Dabiri.
By Emma Dabiri, which you have told me I must read, so therefore I am reading it next.
Which I have been talking about a lot over the last few episodes
You have.
of the podcast. Okay, so I am reading The Lost Continent by Terry Pratchett still, as my fiction book. I am also reading non-fiction. I am reading some Children I Taught and What They Taught Me by Kate Clancy. I've literally just opened it, so I'm very excited. She is a teacher, or used to be a teacher, or is a teacher, who wants to change the world. So obviously I'm a big fan of her, and she concentrates on poetry, but also got her book, How to Grow Your Own Poem.
Nice.
But yeah, she wants to change the world, and so therefore I think she's amazing. And the poetry that her children write is astonishingly good, because I've seen some of it online. And I'm also reading Read Books All Day and Get Paid for It by Jenny Nash, who is a book coach who has been a book coach for 30 odd years. And so I'm about to start coaching. I'm about to start getting coaching stuff, getting coached. Oh my God.
Words?
She's going to listen to this and be like, yeah, we're not going to do that. I am about to start being coached by, because by the time this is out.
Spit it out.
By Hilary Weiss, who...
Hi, Hilary.
Hi! Who has been on the podcast before and whose show that I've been on. I'm very excited. Anyway, this book that I'm reading, Read Books All Day and Get Paid for It, is all about running your own book coaching business and all the rest of it. And I'm always trying to learn new things about how to be better at what I do. And this is actually the perfect timing, because it's making me think about what I want from my business and my clients and myself. And it's really good timing for starting to do all of the business coaching stuff that I'm about to start on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good, well done.
I think I should stop talking for a living. But in the house, exciting things in the house.
In the house, we have walls. Now, this might not seem exciting to people who traditionally have walls, but believe me, we've had like a 7-metre hole in the front of the house for quite a long time now, and we've been filling the gaps in between the oak as time allows, and on the weekend just gone, we finished.
This is the face of somebody who's really pleased.
So no longer is there crappy concrete in our house. No longer is there horrible bricks
That are wet, soaking wet.
That are wet and have
rotting.
no insulation and are rotting the timbers. They're gone. We now have lovely cork and lime, which is great.
Oh, that's great. And then next week, by the time you hear next week's podcast, we might even have all new windows downstairs.
That'd be pretty cool.
Because we're having the windows downstairs fitted next week. Yeah. Having the horrible, cheap, nasty single glazed windows that don't even open. Who puts windows that don't open in a house? And we're having them replaced with beautiful oak, double glazed cottage windows that will be perfectly in keeping with our cottage.
Yes.
Be able to open them.
Although they didn't have double glazing in the 16th century.
Well, no, but we're not in the 16th century anymore.
No, that's true. But yes, it should be marvellous. But yes, it's quite a revelation to not have like tarpaulins covering big gaps in the house.
I know.
And bits of chipboard and stuff nailed to the house to keep the rain out.
Yeah. And now you can kind of walk up the road and be like, oh.
Kind of looks like a house.
Yeah. Instead of a building site. So yes, right. But that's enough of that because today we're talking about editing, how to edit or even grow any enthusiasm for doing so. Because
grow enthusiasm for editing. That's a big task.
Well, yeah, because the last thing you want to do after writing like 50,000 plus words is read the damn thing. And like I've had people say, oh, I need to edit and I really don't want to and I can't start. I just don't want to read it. And so my response is don't read it. Goodness sake, don't read it. Or at least not yet, because that's not the first thing that we do when we edit. Put it away for a week at least and forget about it.
Read something else for a bit.
Oh God, yeah. Don't think about it. Don't do anything with it. Just put it in a drawer and forget about it because your subconscious will churn it over without you paying any attention to it. And you will come up with all sorts of things. Like I've just been talking to one of my coaching clients and he was like, oh, I want to add a new chapter. And he put that in an email to me and I was just like, and so in our call, I was just like, okay, sell me. Tell me why you want to add this chapter. And he told me, I was like, yeah, you're quite right. That chapter does need to go in it. And so that's what happens after you walk away from it for a week or two. You might be like, there's a really important thing that I need to say.
I think as well, one of the things you do is you forget what it is that you meant to say and you have a chance to read the thing that you did write rather than read the thing that you thought you were writing.
Yes, exactly. So if you're thinking or when you get to the stage and you've written your book and you're like, oh, I don't want to read it. Don't read it. Put it away for a week. Give yourself a bit of headspace because, as they say, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. That was a good cliche, yeah?
Nice.
Thanks.
Is it cliche?
Can't see the wood for the trees. Cliche.
Okay.
True, though. Which also, by the way, is why nobody can write a book all on their own, or not a good book anyway. That's why you need people around you to help you, editors and proofreaders and beta readers and people like that. So you put it away for a week or so, and then you can start editing, which I will give you some marvellous tips on in a moment. But first, I just want to run through the 4 stages of editing. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, I'm wearing a jumper that's way too big for me. It was given to me by my friend Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And it's become my favourite jumper because it's enormous, but it is a lot too big for me. So, hello.
4 stages.
4 stages of editing, yes. So, stage the first, high-level structural editing. Stage the second, beta reader editing. Stage the third, copy editing. Stage the fourth, proofreading.
4 stages.
4 stages. We're going to go through at least the first 2 stages this week. We'll see how we get on.
Okay.
So, stage the first. Thank you, Joe. The high-level structural edit. This is the big picture stuff, and this is where you have the good news that you don't have to sit down and read every word that you have just written word by word and then just want to set fire to it. So you don't have to do that. And in fact, you should not do that because that will distract you from what you actually need to do at this stage.
Okay.
Because this is about whether the book as a whole works. And the structure of it and all the rest of it. And if you start getting bogged down, if you start reading it, you will just see typos and ways that you can say things better. And
that's not what we're doing.
That's not what we're doing, because if you get bogged down in that stuff and you spend time doing that, but actually the structure of your book doesn't work very well at the moment, then you're not going to see the things that don't work on a macro scale, and that's actually more important.
Sure.
Than the small stuff. It's very important that your book reads well, that isn't riddled with typos and all the rest of it, but it's more important that the thing as a whole works really well. because people will forgive. Like, if you think about a book, and there's a good example of this. Have you read The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a cracking read. It's not very well written. He's, in my opinion, he's not a particularly good writer, but he's a cracking storyteller. And so for me, it was less important that he's not a particularly good writer, because the story itself dragged me through from start to finish and was just like, oh, it was such a really good read. It wasn't riddled with typos or anything like that. I just don't think it's particularly well written, but that doesn't matter. It really doesn't, for the purposes of that book. So if you have the overall structure and the storytelling down and the narrative down, that's the most important thing, and we can look at the bits and pieces later.
Yeah. So this is about sorting out the structure, and is it in the right order, and should that chapter come first, and does it make sense? Does it make sense as a whole reader journey from one place to the other?
Exactly. So the very first thing that I would like you to do when you're doing this stage 1 of editing is go back to your big idea and your book outline and the promise that you made to your reader. So, and then have a look at the table of contents and your kind of structure of the book. Do you think that your book structure as it is fulfills that promise at a high level? So think about where your reader is when they pick up your book. What state of mind are they in? What do they believe to be true about themselves? What do they, what problem are they suffering? All of that kind of stuff. And then have a look at the structure of the book, the table of contents. Think about the promise that you've made, and then look at, read it through. Does that at a high level take your reader from where they are at the beginning to where you want them to be at the end? That's the very first thing you need to do. Have a look at the chapter order. Does the structure work? Are the messages and ideas that you need to get across in there? Is there anything big missing? So, for example, my client that I was just talking about, he realised that, a part of, without going into too much detail about what he does, but a part of making your business, work for you and make money for you it's not just about living a rich life. Is not just about money, it's also about time. And so the chapter that he wants to add is really, really crucial to that. And so I was just like, yeah, absolutely needs to go in. So is there anything big missing that you can see from looking through the structure of your book? Really, really important. Cool. And conversely, is there anything that needs to come out? If you read through it and you're like, I'm not really sure why that chapter's in there, and actually I think it takes you off on a tangent, you can take it out, and there will be massive resistance to doing that, because you won't want to, because you're like, oh, I've written it now and it's like it's wasted. It's not. You can turn it into an article or a bunch of other stuff. Put
it somewhere safe for the future. It's an article, it's a chapter in a different book, it's a whole rack of emails or whatever it might be. You're not chucking it in the bin, you're just not using it in this book.
Yes, exactly. So do you need to add anything? Do you need to take anything out? Does the structure work? Does the chapter order work? Does everything kind of flow? You want to think about flow. Are you taking somebody through from, A to B without going to Z and then H? And then, it's a bit of a twisted metaphor, but you see what I mean? So we're thinking collie, not spaniel. Okay? To take a dog metaphor. Oh no, whippet.
What?
Whippets run in a straight line. It's like whippet will run in a straight line after a rabbit, and a spaniel will do like 53 bazillion loops and turns and...
Okay.
Yeah. They will do.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, you want to be a whippet. Maybe with a little side. I mean, I don't know. What's she doing?
I do not know. She is up to no good.
She has seen something.
Cat is not.
Okay, next thing. Work on the table of contents basis at first. So look at the table of contents. We're looking at the big picture, not the detail. Make notes on your table of contents. You should have printed it out with your, we're going to print it out. Oh, that's another thing. Print out your first draft to have a look at. This is really important, I think. I am a tree hugger. I don't like the idea of waste, but I think it's really important to print out your first draft on paper so that you can read it. It's very difficult to do this on a screen. Reading
a book on a screen is tough, isn't it?
It is tough, and also you will get distracted, and also you want to think about the experience that people are going to have when they're reading it as well. So it's important to have it on paper. A couple of quick tips on that. Make sure that you are double line spacing it, at least. Make sure it's in a font that's big and easy to read. So at least 12 point, maybe a little bit bigger, because you want to make this really easy to read. And you want big margins as well, because you'll want to make notes in the margins. So they're my 3 top tips. And just print it either like on your own printer or send it to a local printer and just get it printed really cheaply. Because this is just for you at the moment. So that's my top tip for that. But yeah, you can make notes on the table of contents, which you will have printed out. You can just make notes. Is there anything missing? That kind of thing. Make notes. And here, make notes about what you would expect to find under each chapter heading. before you go in and have a look at what you've written in the book. So, for example, if I was... So one of my chapter headings for my book is... I literally can't remember anything that I wrote now. Joe, this is not funny. Hang on. Wait. I can open it right in front of me. Hang on. Where'd it go?
Preparation is everything.
Okay, so I might be talking about... So one of my chapters is called The Flash of Inspiration. Okay, so if I was just looking at my table of contents, I might think, okay, so if a chapter that I've written is about the flash of inspiration, what would I want to include underneath it? And without even looking at it, I might think, I might talk about inspiration, creativity, motivation.
Habit.
Maybe habits, how to come up with ideas, all of that kind of thing. And those are all things that I would expect to find underneath. The reason I want you to do that before you go into the chapter and look at it in detail is because you might come up with a couple of things that you didn't know or that you missed out the first time.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. And do that for each of the chapters as well. So just make quick notes. Don't spend too long on this table of contents side of things, but just make quick notes about what you would expect to find. Maybe a couple of the stories that will illustrate and help the reader understand what point you're making as well. And then do the same thing for the structure of the chapters. So using my Flash of Inspiration chapter as an example, I would like you to take your big structural edit chapter by chapter, but just skim it again. So this is why I'm a big fan of people using subheadings. Even if the subheadings don't go into the final version of your book, I'm a big fan of people using subheadings while they're writing their shitty first draft because it will help you to edit it. So I might scan down and be like, oh, okay, underneath my Flash of Inspiration chapter, I've got coming up with ideas, thinking sideways, talking to people, becoming a collector, honing your big idea, turning your idea into a hook, cultivating creativity. So there are all of the things that I've got written down underneath that particular chapter heading. I will then have a look and it's like, okay, so I've got all of those things. Did I miss anything out? Does that order make sense? Does the order within the chapter make sense? Don't worry about what's underneath the subheadings at this stage. Don't worry about the wording and, the prose. Does the order make sense? Has anything been missed out? And just look at it from that point of view. And that's all I want you to do for stage one. Don't worry about all the bits and pieces. Don't worry about the detail. Don't worry about what goes underneath. That will come later. At the moment, we're just looking at high-level structure.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Cool. Have I missed anything out? Have you got any questions as somebody who has never written a book?
It sounds like one of those tasks I would hate doing. I would need to quite plan it, and I would be like, okay, today I am doing this bit. Yeah. And it would be a process over probably a couple of weeks. If I've got 15 chapters or something, it's going to be one a day, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, though, we're not going into a huge amount of detail and editing. We're just shifting things around and looking. So it depends how much... I mean, some people's first drafts are in better shape than others. So it really depends on how much work you think you've got to do. Really think about what each chapter has to do and whether or not you feel like it's accomplished it. So, that'll help. Cool. Yeah. Okay, editing stage 2 is beta readers. So once you have done your stage 1 edit for yourself and you have got the structure in place, very quickly run it through something like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid just to get rid of the worst typos and spelling mistakes and things like that. And then you're going to send it to your beta readers and they are going to do a very similar thing. They will also pick up typos and things because people love to point out typos and you won't be able to stop them. But what you can do is send them a bunch of questions to get them to focus specifically on what you want to know, on what you want their help with. We've done a whole podcast on beta readers before, and I should know what episode it was.
It'll be in the show notes.
It'll be, yeah. The episode will be in the show notes. You can go and listen to that episode again. But ask them a question. Make sure it's people in your target audience for a start, not just random people, because much as it's nice to get feedback from your spouse or your mom and dad or whatever, if they're not in your target audience, there's only a limited amount of help they'll be able to give you. And if they come back with I don't like it, that's not really helpful if they're not your target audience. So make sure that your beta readers comprise at least 80% of them need to be your target audience.
Sure.
Be wary of sending it to other writers because we are really pissy.
Pissy.
Picky and fussy. That was a portmanteau. And we tend to, I don't do this because I'm a book coach. And well, it's not my job. I wouldn't be a very good book coach if I did this. But writers do tend to give their opinion on the writing style. And again, that's not always useful feedback as a beta reader. So yeah, ask the questions. Make sure that you know what you want to know from your beta readers. Does it flow? All of the stuff that we've just talked about, basically, in the structural edit, that's the kind of thing that you want to know from your beta readers. Does it flow? Is there anything important missing? Does it make sense? What don't you understand? What haven't I explained well? All of that kind of thing is super, super important. And that's stuff that you won't necessarily be able to answer for yourself because you've got the curse of knowledge. You know what you mean. Like you said at the beginning, it's like you know what you mean when you write it. That doesn't mean that you've written it at a basic enough level for people who don't understand.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess you've had experience like that today because you were when you were trying to explain like the entirety of your systems to somebody at work.
Yes. And it's like, well, this is how it works. And they're like, what? This makes no sense. Like, what? Yeah, you're right.
Well, okay, I'm hoping that people who are listening, I'm hoping their books will make sense, at least partly. So yeah, I mean, where are we at time-wise? Is it actually recording? Oh, motherfucker.
I hope it's recording.
It bloody isn't, you know.
What about can you strip the audio off that one?
Yeah, I can strip the audio off that one. This is why, top podcasting tip, everybody, always have at least 2 recording devices for your podcast because otherwise you will record the whole thing without hitting record.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, nice one. Quick time.
Well, I think to be fair, it was user error. I'm just going to close that.
Might as well.
Yeah. I reckon that's probably about 20 minutes. We're probably about there.
Okay.
So we're going to talk, we're going to carry on talking editing next week. Editing part 2, a crash course in editing part 2.
Which confusingly involves stages 3 and 4.
Yeah. Which is great because I like to be clear.
Yeah. Part 2, step 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Nice.
Where we'll be tackling copy editing and proofreading.
Okay.
Yeah. But for now, I will say that if you invest in nothing else in terms of editing, invest in a good proofreader because they are worth their weight.
We'll talk about that next week because that's stage 4.
We will talk about that next week. So what's the takeaway, Joe?
Calm down and remember you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. And you shouldn't do it alone because you can't spot everything on your own.
No.
Even if it's just like a few beta readers to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. People have peculiar ways of saying things, don't they? And if without somebody saying,
Yeah, I have peculiar ways of saying things, and a bunch of people like read my first draft and were like, well, I'm not sure what you mean here, and that just stopped me in my tracks, and it's like, well, that's really important because I don't want that to happen.
For sure.
So, Joe, by the way, is really jumpy because in 8 minutes he needs to go and have his afternoon meeting, and I am now deliberately being irritating. Because he's just like,
8 minutes is plenty of time. 8 minutes is plenty of time.
Okay, fine. So do you want to read the review, this week's review?
This week's review comes from Sarah, and it was from August this year. She said, on my way to London last week, I binge listened to your podcast, Vicky, and I loved the one with you and Yinka. Fab stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
You've so hurt Joe's feelings now, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
That, by the way, that's Sarah from Team Moxie Power Hour.
Whatever.
And I have 3 Sarahs in my Power Hour, and I'm not 100% sure which Sarah said that because there was no surname. So thank you, Sarahs.
Thanks.
You've massively upset Joe now. Obviously, Yinka is awesome, so I'm going to get back on the show at some point. Hi, Yinka. If you would like to leave us a review, please do, because we will love it. Even if it's a bad review, we'll read it out. We'll plug your business. I'm not sure which Sarah. It's either Sarah Silver, who is the chemical translator and is amazing, Sarah Bartlett, who is a dog trainer extraordinaire, or Sarah Maguire, who is a really fun will writing lady who is absolutely the opposite of somebody that you would think would be involved in legal shenanigans. Nice. That makes it sound like a criminal legal shenanigans. So yes.
Hello, Sarahs.
Hello, Sarahs. Thank you for that. Next week we will be finishing. It's not what it says there.
No, next week it says...
No, don't say what it says because then everyone will be confused. It's stage 2 of my crash course in editing.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. If you'd like to join my Team Moxie Power Hours live writing sessions, which are awesome and people love them and they are going to change the world, moxiebooks.co.uk/power hour. Love to see you there. If you listen to every episode, email me with your postal address and I'll send you something silly. And if you liked this episode, go to iTunes and subscribe. It will help us climb the rankings, or subscribe wherever. Please leave us a review.
5 stars. Preferably mentioning me. Just saying.
Joe's very needy. He needs love from strangers on the internet.
I do.
Or you can just share it. If you know somebody who will enjoy this nonsense, send them to moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Joe.
It's nice to be appreciated.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We will be back at the same time next week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. You can find links and show notes on the website at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast, where you can also sign up for the best daily emails in the multiverse and find loads of free resources to help you write your book. We'll be back the same time next week with more tales from the book writing trenches and the latest on what the tiny sheeps have been up to.